Close your eyes for a moment. Think back to your childhood. Saturday morning, sunlight streaming through the window, a bowl of cereal in your lap, and on the television screen, Tom chasing Jerry through another impossible sequence of violence and chaos. You laughed. Everyone laughed. But here's what nobody talks about. The moments between the laughter, the scenes where the music stopped, where the chasing paused, where something quiet and unexpectedly heavy settled into the room. Moments where Tom sat alone in the darkness, staring at nothing. Moments where Jerry stopped running and just existed. Small, vulnerable, tired. Moments that felt different. That made you feel something you couldn't quite name as a child. Tonight, we're not exploring the violence or the comedy. We're not diving into the horror or the band episodes. We're going somewhere else entirely, somewhere softer, but somehow more painful. We're exploring the emotional scars hidden inside Tom and Jerry, the loneliness, the heartbreak, the quiet desperation. The moments that revealed these weren't just cartoon characters, they were beings capable of genuine suffering. This isn't a typical analysis. This is a slow, thoughtful journey through the psychology of two characters who spent decades entertaining us, while carrying burdens we never fully understood, because here's the truth. Tom and Jerry were never really enemies. They were two lonely souls trapped in an endless cycle, finding meaning in the only relationship they had, each other. And sometimes when the cameras lingered just a little too long, when the music faded into silence, when the animators allowed a moment of genuine emotion to slip through, you could see it, the pain behind the performance, the weight of their existence. We're going to examine those moments tonight. Not to disturb you, but to understand. To recognize the emotional depth that always existed beneath the surface. To see Tom and Jerry not as a cat and mouse locked in eternal combat, but as two beings struggling with the same things we all struggle with. The need to be seen, the fear of being alone, the ache of rejection, the desperate hope that tomorrow might be different. So settle in, get comfortable, let your mind relax. Because we're about to discover something you've always felt but never quite articulated, the hidden emotional world of Tom and Jerry. And once you see it, you'll never watch the show the same way again. Chapter 1. The Loneliness Behind the Chase. There's something most viewers never consciously notice about Tom and Jerry. They're both profoundly alone. Think about it, really think about it. Tom lives in a house with human owners who rarely acknowledge his existence. He's fed, sure, he has shelter. But affection, recognition, genuine connection? Almost never. His owners yell at him when he makes noise. They scold him when he fails to catch Jerry. They treat him like a piece of functional equipment, a living mousetrap, that occasionally malfunctions. But they don't see him, not really. Watch the episodes closely. Notice how Tom's owners walk past him without a glance, how they speak about him, not to him, how he exists in their peripheral vision, present but invisible. This is the loneliness of being taken for granted, the quiet pain of knowing your existence only matters when you're useful. Jerry's hidden isolation. And Jerry? He's clever, confident, seemingly self-sufficient, but he lives inside walls. In tiny spaces no one else can reach. His world is measured in inches, mouse holes, cracks in floorboards, spaces between furniture. He has no family in most episodes, no mouse community, no one to share his victories with, no one to comfort him after close calls. When Jerry outsmarts Tom and escapes, where does he go? Back to his hole, alone, in the dark. Sometimes the camera follows him there, shows him sitting by himself in the silence. And in those brief moments before the next episode begins, you can see it. He's lonely too. The Chase's connection. This is where it gets psychologically fascinating. Tom and Jerry chase each other constantly, violently, relentlessly. But what if the chase isn't about catching or escaping? What if it's about connection? Think about how many episodes begin with Jerry peacefully reading, relaxing, minding his own business. He's not causing trouble, he's just existing. And then Tom appears, not always hunting, sometimes just there. And the chase begins. But watch their faces in those opening moments. There's something almost eager in their expressions. Not bloodlust, not fear. Relief. Relief that the routine is starting again. That they have purpose. That they're not alone anymore. The chase gives their lives structure and meaning. It's the only relationship either of them has that's consistent, reliable, and mutual. Tom needs Jerry to have a reason to exist in his owner's house. Jerry needs Tom to feel alive, to test his intelligence, to prove his worth. They need each other. The moments when the mask slips. Every so often, an episode ends not with Tom defeated or Jerry victorious, but with both of them just stopping. The music fades, the action ceases, and the camera lingers on one of them, usually Tom, sitting alone. His posture slumps. His eyes look distant. The manic energy drains away, leaving behind something fragile. In those moments, Tom doesn't look like a predator. He looks tired. Tired of chasing, tired of failing. Tired of existing in a world where the only attention he receives is negative. And sometimes, Jerry watches him from a distance, not celebrating, not gloating, just watching. With an expression that suggests he understands something he wishes he didn't. The loneliness. No one talks about. This is the emotional foundation of Tom and Jerry that most analysis misses. These characters aren't just locked in eternal conflict, they're locked in eternal loneliness, with only each other for company. Their violence is communication, their chase is connection, their rivalry is relationship. And when the chaos stops, what remains is two beings who are fundamentally, profoundly alone in a world that doesn't truly see them. Except for each other. They see each other. They know each other. They exist for each other. And that's both beautiful and heartbreaking. Chapter 2. The episodes where they quietly choose each other. Not every Tom and Jerry episode ends with violence. Not every moment is defined by the chase. There are scenes, rare, precious scenes, where something shifts, where the unspoken rules dissolve, where Tom and Jerry stop performing their roles and reveal something deeper. These are the moments that stay with you, not because they're funny or action-packed, but because they're real. When winter comes, The Night Before Christmas is one of the most emotionally complex episodes in the entire series. Tom throws Jerry out into the freezing cold. Jerry nearly dies in the snow. Tom rescues him, brings him inside, warms him by the fire. But here's what makes this episode profound. The silence between them afterward. They don't return to fighting. They don't pretend nothing happened. They sit together by the warmth, and for a brief moment, the war is over. Tom could have left Jerry outside. Jerry could have run away once he recovered. But neither did. They chose each other. Chose companionship over conflict, chose warmth over warfare. And the episode ends not with a punchline, but with quiet gratitude. Two beings acknowledging that survival matters more than pride. Sharing food, sharing space. In multiple episodes, Tom and Jerry find themselves sharing food, not fighting over it, sharing it. A sandwich split down the middle, a piece of cheese divided carefully, a bowl of milk with 2 straws. These scenes are played for gentle comedy, but beneath the surface, they're acts of profound trust. Eating together is intimate. It's vulnerable. You're lowering your guard, acknowledging hunger, accepting that this moment, right now, requires cooperation instead of competition. Watch how they sit during these scenes. Close but not threatening, relaxed but aware. They're not friends in the traditional sense. But they're not enemies either. There's something more complicated, something that doesn't have a simple name. When external threats appear, some of the most revealing episodes are the ones where Tom and Jerry face a common enemy. A bulldog, a mean cat, a cruel human, an environmental danger. Suddenly, without discussion, without negotiation, they become a team. Tom protects Jerry. Jerry protects Tom. They strategize together. They move in sync. They cover each other's weaknesses. And in those moments, you see their true relationship. Not rivals, but partners who've been forced into opposition by circumstance. When the external threat is defeated, they could return to fighting immediately. Sometimes they do, but sometimes they pause, look at each other, and there's a flicker of recognition. We're good at this. Together. Maybe we don't have to be enemies. Maybe this cooperation is what we've been searching for all along. The moment never lasts. The world demands they return to their roles. But the acknowledgement happens. Brief. Unspoken. Real. The shared glance that says everything. There's a specific look that appears occasionally throughout the series. It happens in quiet moments when both characters are exhausted or defeated. Tom will glance at Jerry. Jerry will glance back. No words, no exaggerated expressions, just a look. And in that look is an entire conversation. This is exhausting, isn't it? Yes. Do we have to keep doing this? I don't know. Do we? What else would we do? I don't know that either. So we keep going? I suppose we do. These moments are animated with incredible subtlety, the kind of nuance that suggests the animators understood these characters on a level deeper than simple comedy. Tom and Jerry aren't trapped by each other, they're trapped by routine, by expectation, by the roles the world has assigned them. And in these rare quiet moments, they acknowledge that trap together. Not with resignation, not with anger, with weary understanding. Why these moments matter. These scenes matter because they reveal the truth beneath the chaos. Tom and Jerry choose each other over and over again, not because they want to fight, but because fighting is the only socially acceptable way for them to interact, the only way their relationship is allowed to exist. But when the rules relax, when winter threatens, when hunger demands cooperation, when external danger forces alliance, their true nature emerges. They're not enemies who occasionally cooperate, they're companions who've been forced into enmity. And every quiet moment where they sit together, share together, protect each other, those moments are glimpses of what their relationship could be if the world would just let them rest. But the world never lets them rest. So they return to the chase, not because they hate each other, but because it's the only relationship they're allowed to have. Chapter 3. The Pain of Rejection and Romantic Heartbreak. Some of the most emotionally devastating Tom and Jerry episodes have nothing to do with their rivalry. They're about love, or more specifically, the brutal, crushing absence of it. Tom falls in love repeatedly throughout the series, and almost every time his heart is shattered into pieces. When love becomes humiliation, watch how Tom transforms when he falls in love. He doesn't just pursue a romantic interest, he becomes someone else entirely. He grooms himself meticulously, he finds flowers, he practices songs, he invents elaborate displays of affection. He tries so desperately to be worthy. And then, inevitably, he's rejected. Not gently, not with kindness, brutally. The female cat laughs at him, or ignores him completely. Or, most painfully, chooses someone else right in front of him. Someone wealthier, stronger, more impressive. And Tom watches it happen. Watches himself being replaced in real time. The animation in these moments is devastating. His face doesn't exaggerate for comedy. It crumples with genuine pain. His posture collapses. His eyes fill with real sadness. This isn't a cartoon character being silly. This is someone experiencing actual heartbreak. Blue Cat Blues, the darkest romantic episode. We've discussed this episode before, but it deserves deeper examination through the lens of emotional trauma. Tom doesn't just lose the girl he loves, he loses everything trying to win her. He spends all his money, he goes into debt, he sacrifices his dignity, his pride, his entire sense of self-worth. And she still chooses someone else. The episode shows Tom's emotional deterioration in painful detail. He stops eating. He stops caring for himself. He wanders the streets in a daze, barely aware of his surroundings. This is depression, animated with uncomfortable accuracy. Jerry narrates the episode with genuine concern. Not mockery, concern. Because even Jerry, who spent years tormenting Tom, recognizes that this is different. this isn't comedy anymore. This is watching someone break. And then, in the final moments, Jerry discovers his own girlfriend has betrayed him too. She's left him for another mouse. The two of them end up on train tracks together, both heartbroken, both defeated, both having lost the will to continue. The episode doesn't provide comfort or resolution, it just ends. In darkness. The universal pain. They both carried. Tom isn't the only one who experiences romantic rejection. Jerry faces it too, less frequently but no less painfully. In several episodes, Jerry falls for a female mouse who doesn't return his feelings, or who's already attached to someone else, or who simply doesn't notice him. And Jerry, despite all his confidence and cleverness, becomes small in those moments. He tries to impress her. He performs, he shows off, he offers gifts. And when it doesn't work, when she walks away or chooses someone else, Jerry's expression mirrors Tom's. The same sadness, the same confusion, the same quiet devastation of being deemed not enough. Why rejection hits so hard in this show? Here's what makes romantic rejection so powerful in Tom and Jerry. These characters already experience constant rejection in their daily lives. Tom is rejected by his owners who see him as a tool, not a companion. Jerry is rejected by a world that's too big for him, that sees him as a pest, not a person. They're both fundamentally unwanted in the spaces they occupy. So when they finally find someone who might see them differently, someone who might choose them, value them, love them, that hope becomes everything. It's not just about romance. It's about finally mattering to someone. And when that hope is crushed, it doesn't just hurt, it confirms their deepest fear. That they're unlovable, unworthy, fundamentally flawed. The moment. Tom and Jerry see each other's pain. Here's one of the most quietly profound aspects of these romantic episodes. When Tom is heartbroken, Jerry stops tormenting him. Not always. Not in every episode. But in the most emotionally honest ones, Jerry recognizes genuine suffering when he sees it. He watches Tom cry, watches him break down, watches him lose everything. And Jerry's expression shifts from triumph to something softer. Something almost like empathy. Because Jerry knows this pain too. He's felt rejection, he's felt worthless. He's felt the crushing weight of trying so hard and still not being enough. In these moments, they're not predator and prey, they're two beings who understand the same fundamental hurt, the ache of wanting to matter to someone who will never see you the way you need to be seen. The scar that never heals. Romantic rejection in Tom and Jerry isn't played for laughs. Not really, it's portrayed as a wound that cuts deeper than any physical injury ever could. Because physical pain heals. Physical wounds close, the body recovers. But the emotional scar of being rejected, of being deemed unworthy of love, of watching someone choose anyone but you, that stays. It lingers in their eyes during quiet moments. It shapes how they move through the world. It reinforces the loneliness they carry everywhere they go. Tom and Jerry may be rivals. They may fight constantly. They may hurt each other in countless ways. But when it comes to romantic heartbreak, they share the same wound. And neither of them knows how to heal it. Chapter 4. When Jerry shows fear. The fragility beneath confidence. Jerry is often portrayed as fearless, clever, unstoppable. He outsmarts Tom at every turn. He escapes impossible situations. He faces danger with a smirk and a plan. But every so often, the mask slips. And when Jerry shows genuine fear, everything changes. The moment the illusion breaks. There are episodes where Jerry doesn't outsmart Tom. Where his plans fail. Where he's cornered with no escape route. And in those moments, his confidence evaporates. His eyes widen, not with cartoon exaggeration, but with real terror. His body language shifts from bold to small. He backs into corners. He trembles. He becomes what he actually is. A tiny, vulnerable creature in a world designed to crush him. These scenes are uncomfortable to watch because they strip away everything we associate with Jerry's character. The bravado, the invincibility, the clever superiority. What's left is raw, primal fear, and it's heartbreaking. The missing mouse, when fear becomes paralysis, In this episode, Tom believes Jerry has become radioactive and deadly, but from Jerry's perspective, something equally terrifying is happening. Tom is afraid of him. Not angry, not competitive, afraid. And Jerry realizes he's lost the one constant in his life, the predictable nature of their relationship. When Tom starts acting erratically, panicking, losing control, Jerry's confidence falters. Because if Tom isn't behaving according to their unspoken rules, then Jerry has no framework for survival. His intelligence only works when the world follows logic. When that logic breaks down, so does he. Watch Jerry's face in the later scenes of this episode. He's not celebrating his advantage. He's confused, anxious, uncertain. Because fear, real fear, doesn't just affect the one who's afraid, it spreads, it contaminates everything around it. And Jerry realizes that living in a world where Tom is genuinely terrified is worse than living in a world where Tom is simply angry. The physical manifestation of trauma. In several episodes, Jerry experiences close calls that should have killed him, narrowly escaping explosions, barely avoiding being crushed, surviving situations that should have been fatal. And in the moments immediately after, before the next gag begins, there's sometimes a beat where Jerry just stops. His chest heaves. His body shakes. He stares at nothing. This is shock. This is trauma response. This is a nervous system overwhelmed by what just happened. The animators didn't have to include these moments. They could have moved immediately to the next joke. But they didn't. They let Jerry feel it, let the audience see it. These aren't cartoon physics anymore. This is a being processing genuine near-death experiences. The exhaustion of constant vigilance. Here's the deepest psychological truth about Jerry. He never truly gets to rest. Even in his peaceful moments, reading a book, eating cheese, relaxing by the fireplace, there's tension in his posture. His ears twitch at every sound. His eyes dart toward doorways. He's always listening, always alert, always ready to run. This is hypervigilance, the state of being constantly prepared for danger, because danger has been a constant reality. Children who grow up in unsafe environments develop this same pattern. They can't fully relax because their nervous system has learned that relaxation equals vulnerability. Jerry lives with this every single day, the psychological toll of never feeling safe, of always needing to be the smartest one in the room, of knowing that one mistake could mean death. That toll accumulates. And sometimes, just sometimes, you can see it in his eyes. A weariness that has nothing to do with physical exhaustion and everything to do with the emotional weight of never being allowed to let your guard down. The scenes where Jerry seeks comfort. When Jerry is genuinely afraid, truly terrified, he does something revealing. He seeks out Tom, not to fight, not to play tricks, but because Tom, despite being his enemy, is also the most familiar presence in his world. In episodes with external threats, ghosts, monsters, cruel humans, Jerry sometimes hides behind Tom or runs to him instinctively. Because fear makes us seek the familiar, even when the familiar has hurt us before. Tom represents predictability. And predictability, even violent predictability, feels safer than the unknown. This dynamic reveals something profound about their relationship. Jerry's confidence exists because Tom is a known quantity. Tom follows patterns. Tom can be anticipated and outsmarted. But when something unpredictable enters their world, Jerry's carefully constructed sense of control collapses. And he returns to the only constant he's ever known: Tom. The weight of being small. Jerry's greatest vulnerability isn't his size. It's the psychological burden of living in a world where everything is a potential threat. Doors can crush him. Feet can step on him. Objects can fall and obliterate him. He exists in a constant state of environmental danger that Tom never has to consider. And the show occasionally acknowledges this, usually in quiet moments when Jerry is alone. He sits in his mouse hole, tiny and silent, while the enormous world continues outside. He's not celebrating his latest victory. He's not planning his next scheme. He's just surviving. One more day in a world that was never designed with him in mind. The tragedy of fearlessness as survival. Jerry's confidence isn't strength, it's a coping mechanism. He acts fearless because showing fear would make him prey. He acts clever because intelligence is his only defense. He acts invincible because acknowledging a vulnerability could get him killed. But underneath that performance is a small creature who's terrified all the time. And on the rare occasions when that terror breaks through, when Jerry's mask falls and we see the frightened being beneath, that's when we understand the true cost of his survival. Chapter 5. Tom's silent breaking point, when the chase becomes too much. Tom loses, constantly, repeatedly, without exception. For 80 years, across hundreds of episodes, Tom has been defeated, humiliated, and broken down again and again. And most of the time, he bounces back. The next episode begins, and he's ready to chase Jerry once more. But there are moments, rare, devastating moments, where something inside Tom simply stops, where the cycle breaks him completely. The posture of defeat. Pay attention to Tom's body language in his lowest moments. His shoulders slump forward, his spine curves, his head hangs low, his eyes lose focus. This isn't cartoon exaggeration, this is clinical depression rendered in animation. The animators studied real emotional collapse. They observed how people physically manifest despair, the way the body literally cannot hold itself upright anymore when the spirit has given up. And they translated that into Tom with uncomfortable accuracy. In episodes like Blue Cat Blues, Tom doesn't walk, he shuffles, he doesn't run, he drags himself forward. Every movement requires effort he no longer has. This is what happens when failure stops being temporary and starts feeling permanent. When you've tried so many times and failed so completely that your brain simply cannot generate hope anymore. The moments where Tom stops fighting. There are episodes where Tom just gives up. Jerry sets a trap. Tom sees it. And instead of trying to avoid it or outsmart it, Tom walks directly into it. Not because he's stupid, because he's exhausted. Exhausted from trying. Exhausted from planning. Exhausted from the endless cycle of hope and disappointment. In those moments, Tom's expression isn't angry or frightened. It's blank. Empty. The look of someone who's discovered that effort and outcome have no relationship. That trying harder doesn't lead to different results. That the universe is fundamentally indifferent to his struggles. This is learned helplessness, a psychological state where repeated failure teaches an organism that nothing it does matters. And Tom exhibits this state perfectly in his darkest episodes. When Tom cries alone. We've discussed Tom crying before, but it deserves deeper examination here. When Tom cries in front of others, it's often played for sympathy or comedy. But when Tom cries alone, when no one is watching, the tone changes completely. The camera lingers, the music stops or becomes unbearably soft. Tom's sobs aren't loud or dramatic, they're quiet, choked, private. These are the tears of someone who's given up on being rescued. Who knows no one is coming to comfort him. Who's crying not for attention, but because the pain has nowhere else to go. The animators made a choice in these scenes. They could have cut away quickly, maintaining the show's comedic pace. Instead, they held the shot. They made us watch Tom suffer in real time. Why? Because they understood something crucial. Genuine emotion requires time. Grief cannot be rushed. Despair cannot be abbreviated. And by forcing us to sit with Tom in his loneliest moments, they transformed him from a cartoon character into something heartbreakingly human. The railroad tracks, the ultimate symbol. Blue Cat Blues ends with Tom sitting on railroad tracks waiting for a train, but that's not where his breaking point actually happens. The breaking point occurs earlier, when he realizes he's lost everything and nothing he can do will change that reality. The railroad tracks aren't the cause of his despair. They're just where his despair leads him. This is the logical endpoint of constant defeat. When you've been broken enough times, when you've lost everything you cared about, when the world has made it abundantly clear that your efforts are meaningless, you eventually reach a point where continuing feels harder than stopping. Tom doesn't arrive at those tracks angry or impulsive. He arrives there with quiet certainty. With the calm that comes from finally accepting what he's been resisting for so long. That nothing will ever change. That this is his life. That tomorrow will be exactly like today. and some part of him simply cannot carry that knowledge anymore. Jerry's response to Tom's breaking point. Here's what makes these moments even more emotionally complex: Jerry's reaction. When Tom reaches his absolute lowest point, Jerry doesn't celebrate, he doesn't mock, he doesn't feel victorious, he feels concerned. In Blue Cat Blues, Jerry narrates Tom's descent with genuine worry in his voice. He tries to help. He realizes something is deeply wrong. Because even though they're rivals, even though they hurt each other constantly, Jerry understands that there's a difference between losing a game and losing yourself. And when Tom crosses that line, when defeat becomes existential, Jerry recognizes it because he's felt that edge too. He's stood at his own breaking points. He's experienced moments where survival stopped feeling worth the effort. So when he sees Tom truly broken, Jerry doesn't see an enemy finally defeated. He sees someone drowning, someone he knows, someone who, despite everything, matters to him. The question Tom never asks out loud. In Tom's darkest moments, there's a question hanging in the air. You can see it in his eyes, in his posture, in his silence. What's the point? What's the point of trying if I always fail? What's the point of hoping if hope always leads to disappointment? What's the point of existing if my existence only generates pain? Tom never voices this question because he's a cartoon character in a children's show. But the animators voice it for him through his body language, through the weight of his movements, through the emptiness in his eyes. And that question lingers long after the episode ends. Because it's a question we've all asked ourselves at some point. A question that emerges when life has beaten us down enough times. What's the point of continuing? The tragedy of resilience. The saddest part of Tom's breaking points isn't that they happen, it's that he always comes back. The next episode begins and Tom is chasing Jerry again. The cycle continues. The pattern repeats. His breaking point wasn't an ending. It was just another moment in an infinite loop. And maybe that's the real tragedy. Not that Tom breaks, but that he's never allowed to stay broken. He's forced back into the chase, forced back into failure, forced back into a role that destroys him piece by piece, forever. Chapter 6. The psychology of their codependency. Here's the uncomfortable truth at the heart of Tom and Jerry. They need each other in ways that aren't healthy. This isn't friendship, this isn't even rivalry in the traditional sense. This is codependency, a psychological pattern where two beings become so entangled that neither can exist independently anymore. And the show, intentionally or not, portrays this dynamic with startling accuracy, what codependency actually looks like. In psychology, codependent relationships share specific characteristics. Identity becomes defined by the other person. Self-worth depends on the dynamic continuing. Each person enables the other's dysfunction. Attempts to break the pattern create anxiety. The relationship becomes the center of existence. Tom and Jerry exhibit every single one of these traits. Tom's entire identity is the cat who chases Jerry. Remove Jerry, and Tom has no purpose, no role, no reason to exist in his owner's house. Jerry's identity is equally dependent. The mouse who outsmarts Tom. Without Tom, Jerry's intelligence has no outlet, his cleverness has no audience, his survival skills have no purpose. They're trapped in a dance neither can leave. The episodes where separation creates crisis. Several episodes explore what happens when Tom and Jerry are separated. Mouse in Manhattan shows Jerry leaving to explore the big city. He's excited initially. Freedom, adventure, independence. But the city is overwhelming, dangerous, lonely. And Jerry realizes something devastating. He doesn't know how to exist without Tom. His entire sense of self is built around their dynamic. Without it, he's just lost. He returns home, not in defeat, but in desperate need. Because home isn't a place, it's Tom. Similarly, episodes where Tom is replaced by another cat show Tom becoming listless, purposeless, empty. Even when he's free from the chase, he can't find meaning in that freedom. Because his meaning was never about catching Jerry. It was about having someone who saw him, who interacted with him, who made his existence matter. The cycle they can't escape. Watch how Tom and Jerry episodes typically end. Jerry wins, Tom loses, the episode concludes. But notice what happens in the final frames. Often, there's a brief moment, just a second or two, where both characters are visible. Tom is defeated but not destroyed. Jerry is victorious but not celebratory. They're both just there, existing in the same space, the cycle complete but not finished because tomorrow they'll do it again. And the day after that. And the day after that. This is the endless loop of codependency. There's no resolution because resolution would mean separation. And separation is the one thing neither of them can tolerate. When one tries to break free. The most psychologically revealing episodes are the ones where either Tom or Jerry tries to establish independence. Tom gets a new friend, Jerry finds a mouse companion. One of them discovers a new interest or hobby. And initially it seems healthy. Like growth. Like breaking a toxic pattern. But watch what happens. The other becomes jealous, sabotaging, desperate. Not because they want to hurt each other, but because they're terrified of abandonment. If Tom doesn't need Jerry anymore, then Jerry loses his purpose. If Jerry doesn't need Tom anymore, then Tom loses his identity. So they unconsciously sabotage any attempt at independence. They pull each other back into the familiar pattern, even when that pattern hurts them. Because familiar pain feels safer than unfamiliar freedom. The emotional blackmail. They don't realize they're doing codependent relationships often involve subtle emotional manipulation, not malicious, just desperate. When Tom is truly suffering, Jerry stays. Jerry helps. Jerry can't leave. When Jerry is in real danger, Tom saves him. Tom protects. Tom can't let him die. They've each learned that genuine distress brings the other close, that vulnerability creates connection. So on some unconscious level, they perpetuate their own suffering because suffering is what keeps them together. This isn't a conscious choice. It's a psychological pattern formed over years of having no one else, needing each other for survival, and learning that conflict is the only acceptable form of intimacy in their world. Why? This pattern is so difficult to break. Breaking codependency requires developing independent identity, finding self-worth outside the relationship, building other connections, tolerating the anxiety of separation, redefining purpose, independently. Tom and Jerry have none of these things. Tom has no other relationships, no hobbies, no friends, no purpose outside of chasing Jerry. Jerry has no community, no family, no safe space beyond the temporary security of outsmarting Tom. They're each other's entire world. And when your entire world is one other person, leaving them feels like suicide, even when staying feels like slow death. The tragedy of mutual imprisonment. Here's the heartbreaking irony. Tom isn't keeping Jerry trapped. Jerry isn't keeping Tom trapped. They're keeping each other trapped. Each one is simultaneously the prisoner and the prison guard. Each one desperately wants freedom while desperately fearing it. Because freedom means loneliness. Freedom means meaninglessness. Freedom means facing the terrifying question, who am I without you? And neither of them has an answer. Chapter 7. The moments that reveal their humanity. Despite being a cat and a mouse, despite being animated characters, despite existing in a world of cartoon physics and impossible scenarios, Tom and Jerry experience moments of such raw, genuine humanity that they transcend their medium entirely. These are the scenes where the comedy stops, where the chase pauses, where something real breaks through. When Tom experiences beauty, there are episodes where Tom encounters something beautiful, music, art, nature, a peaceful moment, and his entire demeanor transforms. He stops being a predator, he stops thinking about Jerry, he stops performing his role. He just experiences. Watch his face during these moments. The animators drew genuine wonder, genuine peace. The soft relaxation of someone who's found temporary escape from their struggles. In The Cat Concerto, Tom plays piano with such passion, such dedication, that you forget he's supposed to be a cartoon villain. He becomes an artist lost in his craft, finding meaning in creation rather than destruction. These moments reveal what Tom could be if his life wasn't defined by the chase. They show capacity for depth, for appreciation, for connection with something larger than his daily survival. And they make his return to the cycle all the more tragic. because you've seen what he's capable of being. And then you watch him get dragged back into being what he's forced to be. When Jerry shows mercy, Jerry wins most battles, his intelligence triumphs, his plans succeed. But there are moments, quiet, easily missed moments, where Jerry could finish Tom completely and chooses not to. Where Tom is vulnerable, defeated, at Jerry's mercy, and Jerry simply walks away. Not out of fear, not strategically, but because something in that moment tells him, enough. These acts of mercy are never explained or celebrated. They happen in the margins of episodes, in the spaces between major gags, but they reveal something profound. Jerry isn't driven by hatred, he's driven by survival. And when survival isn't threatened, when Tom poses no immediate danger, Jerry's default isn't cruelty, it's compassion. This distinction matters. It transforms Jerry from a vengeful character into a complex one, someone capable of recognizing another being's suffering and choosing not to add to it, even when that being has caused him immense pain. The shared moments of simple joy. In rare episodes, Tom and Jerry do something revolutionary. They play. Not fight, not chase. Play. They build something together. They dance. They share a joke at someone else's expense. They collaborate on a prank targeting a third party. And in those moments, you see what their relationship could have been in a different world. Two beings who genuinely enjoy each other's company, who make each other laugh, who find joy in shared experience rather than conflict. Watch their body language during these scenes. They're relaxed, open, present. Jerry doesn't flinch at Tom's presence. Tom doesn't tense when Jerry approaches. They exist in the same space without fear, without aggression, without the weight of their roles pressing down on them. These moments are fleeting. The world always pulls them back. But for those brief seconds, you see two friends who got lost somewhere along the way.